well, when they speak Italian, you can hear a translation.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hold on. You can... buongiorno, siamo qua per parlare del film di James Franco, Sal, presentato nella nostra sezione Orizzonti, e con noi al tavolo sono l'attore Val Loren, e il regista e sceneggiatore James Franco.
Thank you for coming.
I'd like to start with a question myself. Last night, James, when you introduced the film, you said that it was not a factual biography, but it was an emotional. You described it as an emotional biography. I'd like you to elaborate a little bit on that, and also I would like to know why did you decide to concentrate on this latter part of someone's life?
Right, so I've done biopics before. I played James Dean, and I played the poet, American poet Allen Ginsberg. I did the story about Aaron Ralston. I was a part of a film about American politician Harvey Milk. I played his lover to Sean Penn's Harvey Milk. And more or less, you know, well, they all kind of cover real people's lives in different ways, and the James Dean thing was, you know, I guess you would say a more traditional kind of biopic. Allen Ginsberg, not so conventional, but it did cover, you know, a certain period of his life and covered, you know, key moments of his life. And Aaron Ralston kind of covered the big event of his life. And so I liked that, I enjoyed the ones more, I guess, as a filmmaker, when they took a unusual approach to a person's life story. They had some unique way into that person, and I was less interested in giving a history lesson. I think, you know, in today's, you know, the technology we have today allows anybody to look up facts about anything in two minutes. So I felt like we didn't need to tell all the beats of Sal's life. What we could do with a movie is deliver the emotional side of him. That's something that maybe you can't get from Wikipedia, and that's the one thing that you can only get from a performer. And so we sought a way to give an emotional impression of who Sal was, and to capture his spirit, rather than just tell you all the major things of his life.
So what's in here?
Buongiorno, io volevo fare i complimenti perché ho trovato la figura di Sal che... Sì, volevo fare i complimenti perché ho trovato il personaggio di Sal curato in maniera... è un film sincero, appassionato, c'è un grande rispetto anche nel trattamento dell'omosessualità. Però sono rimasta un po' spiazzata dallo stile visivo, soprattutto all'inizio, questi primissimi piani insistiti. L'ho trovato un film quasi sperimentale. Volevo sapere come hai costruito lo stile, se hai usato dei modelli di riferimento.
Yes, so the question, as I understand it, is she liked the movie very much, and is asking me about the use of close-ups and extreme close-ups, and how did I come about using that, using so many close-ups or that kind of style. And I guess, I'm not ashamed to say, and I think it's obvious to a lot of people, one of my biggest influences as a director is Gus Van Sant. He doesn't necessarily use a lot of close-ups that way, but the way I think in pacing and structure, he is a huge influence. As far as the close-ups, I guess maybe it's my own thing. I did a series of short films, and I just, before this, and I just found that it's nice to sit with I like sitting with a person's face. Maybe it's because I come from an acting background, but I think it's a different kind of use of close-up than I've seen before, where you get to really sit with it. You don't cut away from it. It's not, just punctuation. It's that you're really staying with these shots, and I think what happens then is, and it's not even about cutting to a close-up for, extensive, sequences of dialogue all the time. A lot of it is just sitting with that person, and in that way, I hope that the audience just becomes closer and closer to the character without kind of making the action put you closer to him, really just putting you next to him, and so that you're just over the course of the movie, just sitting with him, and I think, because Val gives such a, realistic and grounded performance, something is transferred, in a more subtle way, just by the use of putting the camera so close to him and then allowing him to just be, I guess.
Hi, James. Stephen Schaefer here. Congratulations, a beautiful film. But two things. You're so young to even be aware of who Sal Mineo is, who came out in the 50s as a teenage idol and was basically finished in movies, as the film sort of suggests, by the mid-60s. So where did this interest in Sal Mineo come in? And also, one of the other great accomplishments, I think, of the film is the way you're able to sketch this whole gay, sex-obsessed subculture that emerged in the 70s, and it was very much part of Sal Mineo's life.
Well, I was introduced to Sal Mineo's work when I did, when I played James Dean, I don't know, almost 10 years ago now, I guess. And he was a Warner, he was under contract at Warner Brothers, I think, so he had a part in Giant with James Dean as well. And then Mark Rydell, the director of James Dean, had known Sal, and so and then I knew so I knew a bit of his work, and then I started getting to know about him a little bit more, and his story became more and more interesting to me, and then this new biography came out by, pronounce the guy's name? Michael Greg Michaud, yeah. There's a brand new biography, and so I was reading his biography, and it was very interesting to me too, because he had fallen out of favor, and he was murdered by a stranger, or at least the man that was convicted was a stranger. But because he hadn't, the man hadn't been caught, wasn't convicted for 2 years after Sal was killed, there was, I guess, all this space for ungrounded speculation about why he was killed. People, rumors about, it was one of his lovers, or it had something to do with drugs. And in fact, the man they convicted had no idea that who he was killing. It was, just happenstance. And, but because of that, I would go to, I'll talk to people. I remember talking to people about this movie, and they say, oh yeah, wasn't he killed by a lover? So it's been tainted by, tabloid reporting. His memory has been tainted by, rumors in certain outlets that can just, write whatever they like, and it does have an effect on people's memory or public persona or the way people perceive someone. And so part of me wanted to kind of set the record straight, but I guess more than anything, Sal, and this is also one of the reasons that we made the movie the way we did it, Sal embodies a tragedy that I think a lot of creative types go through. where they have so much passion and, in Sal's case, so much talent, but they are unable to practice their art. And when Sal, was in his 20s for various reasons, because, he was no longer the young, cute, child actor, because he sort of came out, I guess. I guess it was kind of known. And then also because of, a series of roles that, if we look at now, like a movie called Who Killed Teddy Bear, like you think, oh, that's so tame. But I guess at the time, it was a risque movie and also kind of would, had damaged his career a little bit. So he could no longer, act in the way that he wanted to. And to me, that's just a sad circumstance that someone can't be expressive as they want to be. And so I wanted to tell the story for Sal, but also for, every kind of creative type in that position.
Since we have Val here,
Yeah.
I like to ask him how, as James said, he has had a long-term relationship with Sal Miller dates back in his career. I don't know when you became aware of him, and how did you approach the task of portraying him in such a small, and defining him in such a narrow period of time, and then he gets killed?
Well, I was first introduced to Sal Mineo when I was a kid. My mother was a big movie buff, and she would sit me down and she would show me a lot of Marlon Brando movies, Montgomery Clift movies, and James Dean movies. And I remember when I saw Rebel Without a Cause, I really, I felt like I wanted to be James Dean, but I felt like I related more to Plato, to Sal Mineo's character, so I always remembered him for that. And I didn't know too much more about him until I started training as an actor, and our acting teacher would give us books to read and tell us movies to watch, and I found Sal Mineo again on that list. So I had a peripheral kind of an understanding of who he was. And when I found out that we were going to tell the story of his life, I started studying about him and learning as much as I could about him, and I could not believe what an extraordinary artist he was, and how little me and my friends and people generally knew about him. In the 1950s, Sal was one of the top 5 biggest stars in the world for 6 years straight. And as a singer, he would sell out stadiums around the world for concerts. He was a painter, he was a singer, he was an actor, he was a sculptor, and he excelled at all of these things. So he was this amazing, multifaceted artist, and I couldn't believe that I didn't know anything about this great young talent. So when we, decided that we're gonna make this film, and James was kind enough to ask me to do it, my main focus was to try to get his essence, his spirit, which I found very, very special, his general energy and his aura, and translate that, because I felt like who Sal had grown into at the very, very end of his life was a very, very different person than the childhood star that the world knew and loved. Just as an amazing of a person, but evolved and just different. So my rehearsal process consisted of finding out exactly where he was at the end of his life, how he got there, and what kind of mental and emotional state he was in to make the choices that put him where he was at the end of his life, which to him wasn't a dour, sad, morose place. He was a very positive individual, a very happy, kind, soulful person at heart. And I really wanted to catch that and honor him and pay tribute to him and his legacy by maybe, hopefully through this film, transferring that spirit that he had. And we found out exactly what he did on the very last day of his life, and everything you see in the movie is exactly in the order of which you see it. what he did, and what made that very special for me, and why I think this film, to me, is one of a kind, and it's the most proud that I've ever been of anything that I've ever gotten to do, is, to me, I feel like it's the kind of movie that allows you to get to know this person and get to know where they came from, where they are, and where they're going, all by just being around him like a ghost, being next to him, getting to know his personality, getting to know how he goes about his day. I've never gotten to know someone like that in a film before, and that's why this film is so special for me. And I don't know anybody else but James Franco that would have the vision, honestly, I gotta say, to do that, because it takes great courage. And that was my mission, to try to get to intimately share him with you guys as much as possible.
And I've known Val for 15 years. We went to acting school together. He was in my first acting class 15 years ago. And when I then did James Dean, Val and I, as young actors, had this idea that we'd write a one act about James Dean and Sal Mineo. But at the time, Val was a little deluded, and he would always tell me that he wanted to play James Dean in the one act. And I said, I thought to myself, I mean, that's fine, but I just don't think, the looks, I think it's, I think I look a little more like James Dean than this guy. So it took 10 years to, come around, and then you realized that he was perfect for Sal Mineo, and he did a great job.
Thankful for it.
Val mentioned the word vision. I like to ask something about James' process. Usually, when a well-established Hollywood actor goes behind the camera, they surround themselves with very well-known professional, other movie stars. They make films that are very structured. They protect themselves. James chooses completely the opposite director. When he goes behind the camera as a director, he does it with his friends. He does it with very low-budget technologies, and he shoots very, very fast and edits even faster. I'd like you to explain a little bit about your why the choice and the details of the process.
That's true. I made another feature about a year ago, right before this, about a poet named Hart Crane, an American poet, and the movie's called The Broken Tower. Focus Feature is gonna release it, and that and this film were very small and had very small budgets, but that was very, very important to me because I've worked in film for 15 years. I've been in some of the biggest movies that have ever been made. I'm doing a huge movie right now, The Wizard of Oz. And they are part of what, we call it the film business for a reason. It's a business, and those movies are huge investments, and they need to make their money back. Yes, the directors, Sam Raimi is an incredible director, and he wants to entertain and to say, something about human nature, human relationships, I guess. But also, he needs to make a movie that is going to make its money back. My subjects, an obscure poet named Hart Crane, and Sal Mineo, an actor that a lot of people forgot about, are not subjects that are, going to be blockbusters. And I don't expect them to be, and I don't want them to be. I am really trying to find a way to make movies about things that interest me, and to be able to kind of step out of that realm where we judge success by box office. I mean, that's really, it's become such a huge thing in the report, box office numbers and, Huffington Post or whatever now. As if that is the final goal. I can step out of it. You know, a Hollywood Reporter can write, oh, it's a low budget, and it shows. Well, yeah, what also shows is like we were able to capture, you know, this movie about someone that would never have been made otherwise, and we were able to capture, you know, a wonderful performance. And in my opinion, it looks great. It looks exactly how we wanted to do it, and we were able to do it responsibly, and also, stand here confidently and say, hey, nobody can get mad at us for wasting money. And we did the film exactly like we wanted to do it, and we didn't have to, compromise for any reason, and we didn't have to make it in any way. And we can, even be as bold to say, hey, we did this for artistic reasons. We actually believe that, film can be, an art still. It doesn't need to just be, this entertainment or money-making thing. Actually, it can still have, artistic aspirations. So that's what I did. Thank you.
Buongiorno, volevo chiederle un aspetto molto interessante di questo film è anche vedere Salmineo che stava ricostruendo la sua carriera anche al cinema, aveva appena stretto un accordo per debuttare come regista, quindi lui stava cercando di uscire da quel periodo in cui gli studios l'avevano schiacciato, in qualche modo stereotipato in dei ruoli. Lei che è un attore, appunto, ora sta facendo Oz con Sam Raimi, che è un film molto atteso. Le pressioni di Hollywood, secondo lei, sono rimaste le stesse sugli attori? Lei se le sente addosso molto forti? Come ci si salva da Hollywood che in qualche modo forse tende a stereotipare? E poi avevo una curiosità, all'inizio si vede Sal che sfoglia una rivista e si ferma su un articolo in cui si parla di Pasolini. Era una cosa casuale o era un omaggio voluto?
Right. So you asked me about pressures. I mean, pressures to.
If the pressures from Hollywood on actors are the same or are different from, when Sal was there, and if the reference to Pasolini when it was a casual thing or.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. There are pressures. I mean. I think everything's changing as it always is. We have all this new technology, the internet, video games sell, tons of money. I just did a movie, Planet of the Apes, where, many of my co-stars were, CG created characters. And then on the other hand, there's all this, consumer level technology that is just, advancing and advancing and advancing. And so, Coppola once said, I think at Cannes, at the premiere of Apocalypse Now, around that time, he was waiting for, the time when the young teenage girl would make a feature film in her backyard. Well, that time is now. I mean, it's that we are able to do that now. So there are both pressures because the film business, is still, happening. They're still making, these huge movies and 3D movies now and all of this stuff. And so there is a certain amount of pressure to, if you want to stay in that world. But there are also all these other outlets and ways to make movies and ways to be creative. I mean, I imagine, like, if Sal was alive today, why not? Yeah, he should just get a video, a nice video set up and just make the movies that he wants to make. So there are pressures, but there are also ways to alleviate those pressures. And for me, I've found that it's a healthy mix, just for my career, my state of mind, to do both kinds of projects and to do because if I just did these huge movies as an actor, I probably couldn't go on. I mean, I know it sounds crazy and stupid, and I probably shouldn't even talk about it, because who's gonna feel sorry for me? Oh, you have to do, Spider-Man? Oh, poor guy. But for my creative spirit or whatever, I also need this other side, and to be able to tell the stories that I think are important. So.
I'm really sorry, but I'm told we have to finish here.
They gotta bring the James. Okay. James. Come on, Val. We gotta go. They want us out of here. I want to give you an envelope. Where can I?
Give it to him.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. For me. Thank you very much. Okay. I have to go. Thank you. Thank you.